Long ago, in a land that stretched across the rolling savannas of Africa, a drought held the people captive. The once fertile land cracked and crumbled, the rivers and streams vanished, and the animals migrated in search of water. The villagers were left with empty wells, wilted crops, and despair etched deeply into their sun-worn faces. Among them lived Sheep, an elderly widow who had seen many seasons come and go. She had survived plagues of locusts and years of famine, but none as severe as this. Her hut, nestled on the edge of the village, was a quiet place of solitude. Childless and alone since her husband's passing many years ago, Sheep was regarded by the villagers with both reverence and pity. One sweltering evening, while the village struggled through yet another waterless day, Sheep sat in her hut, rifling through a wooden chest left by her late mother. Among the neatly folded fabrics and small heirlooms, she found an object wrapped in cloth. Unveiling it, she was surprised to discover a beautifully carved gourd. The designs etched into its surface were intricate, spiraling patterns that seemed to move in the flickering lamplight. She remembered her mother speaking of the gourd only in whispers, calling it a gift from the ancestors. "Keep it hidden," her mother had said.
But why?
The gourd seemed ordinary enough, yet as Sheep cradled it in her hands, she felt a strange, cool sensation, as though it contained the essence of water itself. Driven by curiosity, she unstoppered the gourd and tipped it gently. A small stream of water trickled into her cupped hand. She hesitated, her parched throat screaming for relief. Finally, she sipped. The water was unlike anything she had ever tasted, cool, sweet, and refreshing. It soothed her body and seemed to awaken something deep within her soul. That night, Sheep dreamed of her mother. Her figure appeared faint and shrouded, her voice carrying the weight of the ancestors. "This is no ordinary water," her mother whispered. "It is life itself, gifted in times of great need. Use it wisely, my child, for its purpose is sacred." Sheep awoke with a start, her heart pounding. Her hand instinctively went to her belly, where she felt an unfamiliar warmth. Over the next days, the warmth grew into something she had never experienced before. The elderly woman, who had believed herself long past the years of childbearing, realized she was with child. 9 months later, under a sky heavy with ominous clouds, Sheep gave birth to a boy. The village gathered, astonished by the miracle. The child's skin glistened like dew-kissed grass, and his eyes held a stormy depth, as though the sky itself had taken residence in them. Sheep named him Camagilo, meaning gift, for that is what he was. Camagilo grew quickly, his laughter and curiosity bringing light to Sheep's world. Yet it soon became clear that he was no ordinary child. His emotions held power. When he giggled, a refreshing breeze swept through the village, offering momentary relief from the unrelenting heat. But when he cried, something extraordinary happened. Rain would fall, sometimes in a soft drizzle, other times in heavy bursts that soaked the parched earth. Word of Camagilo's abilities spread quickly. The villagers were first awestruck and grateful. They began to depend on the boy's tears for rain, coaxing him to cry whenever their crops and livestock suffered. Yet the demands weighed heavily on Sheep. "He is just a child," she argued when the village chief, Kosi Mogali, suggested that Camagilo be made to cry on command. "His tears are not ours to demand." Some villagers began to murmur among themselves, their gratitude giving way to fear. "Such power belongs only to the spirits," they whispered. "What if he brings destruction instead of life?" Tensions rose one fateful day when strangers from a neighboring village, hearing of Camagilo's gift, came with an armed party, demanding to take him. "He could save our people," their leader insisted. Sheep stood defiantly before them, clutching her son to her chest. The villagers joined her, forming a protective wall around the boy. But the confrontation turned violent. In the chaos, Sheep was struck and fell to the ground. Camagilo, witnessing his mother's pain, cried out in anguish. His tears fell like torrents, unleashing a storm so fierce that the attackers were forced to flee. Yet the storm did not stop. The rains came in unrelenting sheets, flooding the fields and driving terrified villagers to seek higher ground. When the skies finally cleared, the villagers emerged to survey the damage. The fields lay ruined, the village in disarray. Some blamed Camigilo for the devastation.
"He is a curse," they said.
We should have never relied on him. Camigilo, heartbroken and guilt-ridden, decided to leave the village. "I don't want to hurt anyone," he told his mother. Weak but determined, MMA and Sheeb urged him to embrace his gift. She handed him the mystical gourd, saying, "This is the source of your power, a connection to the ancestors. You must find your path, my son. The answers lie where the spirits dwell." Camigilo set off into the wilderness, guided by dreams and whispers on the wind. The journey was long and arduous. He walked through dense forests and across rocky plains, sleeping under the stars and surviving on the knowledge his mother had taught him. At last, he reached the sacred baobab grove, a place his dreams had often shown him. The grove was unlike anything he had ever seen, towering baobabs with roots that seemed to reach into the heavens, their trunks etched with ancient symbols. Here, the voices of the ancestors were strong, echoing through the rustling leaves. In the grove, Camigilo learned to harness his emotions and control his powers. The ancestors guided him, teaching him songs and rituals to channel the rain without unleashing destruction. He spent weeks there, growing stronger and wiser until he felt ready to return to his village. Meanwhile, back in the village, the drought had returned. The people, now regretful of their actions, longed for Camigilo's return. Kosi Mogali, humbled by the devastation, decided to lead a party to find the boy and bring him back. When Camigilo finally returned, the villagers greeted him with a mixture of joy and shame. Standing before them, he forgave their doubts and fears. With the wisdom he had gained, Camigilo called forth rain, not from tears, but through a soft song taught by the ancestors. The rain fell gently, nourishing the soil and restoring life to the village. From that day forward, Camigilo was known as the Child of the Rain. He became a leader and teacher, showing the people how to honor the land and the ancestors, ensuring that the droughts of the past would not return. Years later, as Camigilo grew into a man, the mystical gourd remained in his care, its water untouched, waiting for another time of great need. In the heart of the African savanna, where the rain and sun danced in eternal balance, Camigilo's story became a legend, reminding generations that even in the driest of times, the seeds of hope can bloom.